Squeezing up the junction. Right, we're talking divorce. Isn't it joyful? So we're talking divorce today and alcohol, because that's what happens at the beginning of January, is that we all start looking at our lives and thinking, oh, this is what I want to change, this is what I want to do. And it is the day typically known as Divorce Day. And my next guest is top divorce lawyer at Britton & Time Solicitors in Brighton and Mayfair. This is Paul Britton, who joins me in the studio. Good morning to you. Happy New Year, Paul.
Happy New Year.
It's going to be a busy one for you today, then, isn't it?
I mean, it shouldn't be Divorce Day. It should be Divorce Awareness Day,
yes.
maybe.
I don't think divorce has to be a negative thing.
I think
sometimes it's positive. You think, I'm not putting up with this carry-on anymore.
It's normally a breath of fresh air.
Yes. I was looking at some of the cases that you've dealt with, and nothing surprises you, and this is right from very minor things that end a relationship, or someone discovering that her husband is having an affair with a friend's daughter, that kind of thing.
Yeah, the work experience case, I remember that one.
Tell us about the work experience case. This is shocking.
So before divorce became no fault, so you could just now since April 2022 you can just say I'm unhappy. You don't have to give grounds. But back in the day, before 2022, not so long ago, you had to give a reason for why you wanted divorce. And adultery was one of those reasons that you could particularise. In that particular case, I think they'd been married 25 years or so. And then the kids had grown up, they'd all left home. Someone's daughter wanted work experience, so husband said, yes, okay, you can't work at the office. Was working at the office, wife came into the office, caught them doing the hanky-panky, and issued divorce proceedings for adultery,
horrific, though.
You couldn't make it up, these
No,
stories.
and it's just a betrayal on so many ways, so you can understand it then, but sometimes it's just a case of people saying, I've just grown apart from you. There's one case, people have been married for decades. And suddenly, and nobody's done anything wrong, but one partner will say, do you know what, I can't do this anymore. Yeah,
I know the one you're thinking of. So they had been married nearly 40 years. Again, I remember sitting in the consultation with that particular client, and she said to me, Paul, I've been the perfect mother. I've done all the school runs. I've sat on all the committees. I've done the lunch boxes. I've kept that house clean. I've done all his meals. She said, all I want now is a space, a studio where I can paint.
So sometimes people think the reward for all that is sort of skipping off together into the sunset and having a joyful retirement. But sometimes, as you say, it's being on your own.
It is, yeah.
Someone else.
You can appreciate that. She loved to paint. And I have to say, women are far more independent than men. So they deal with divorce, I think, a lot better than their male counterparts.
Does anything shock you now? Because you say you've seen everything. Does anyone come in and you think, for goodness sake?
We don't get the stories so much anymore because we can just say we're unhappy. I remember I had a lottery win once. He won a whole load of money on the lottery. We acted for her. He had hidden the winnings, and then we had found out post-divorce, so when it was all done and dusted, so we had to reopen the case to say he hadn't disclosed this lottery win. And the judge awarded the entire win to our client because he'd lied to the court. It's contempt. He'd misrepresented his financial position.
I think it's quite interesting how sometimes there's it's little things. That expression, the straw that breaks the camel's back, and it will be little things.
Death by a thousand
it's
cuts.
like somebody that's unreasonable when it comes to, I don't know, doing the washing up or loading the dishwasher, and suddenly you get that moment where, and it's particularly over Christmas. I imagine there's loads of people that have been lounging on the sofa and watching their other half do all the work, and you suddenly think, I'm not organising your mother's Christmas present anymore. I'm not doing this.
That's a good segue into another story that I had. I had a client around 2020, 2018, and she had received over 40,000 messages from her husband in 1 year, and it was things like, have you loaded the dishwasher? Why is the dishwasher not being loaded? It was just
do it yourself.
And that was we said unreasonable behaviour, that he was unreasonable. It takes.
There's one that I liked as well. A client who'd finally had enough of her husband because he continued to leave the toilet seat up for 6 years.
Yeah, that's a.
I'm just reading some of these and wondering if I can divorce my teenage children. Is that a possibility?
You need an auto timer that shuts your.
Or the couple where the husband adopted a puppy and then refused to ever take it for walks.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, where are you getting all these? I
love these. I've been doing some. Yes, this is the variety basically of what happened.
I can remember all of these cases. I want to know where you're getting them from.
Yeah. Re-divorce, says Claire. I wouldn't call having an affair with a friend's daughter minor. No, that's not one of the ones that we thought were minor, but there are minor incidents,
not minor,
aren't
but
there?
I have to say, I mean, maybe affairs are very common. You know, majority of cases are some sort of adultery. We had one case once, I'm just trying to remember it, where he had denied it. Oh my God, it was the parrot case. So she had trained the wife had trained the parrot to say things like another woman's name and little comments. And although we couldn't take a witness statement from the parrot, it was compelling evidence that eventually forced the husband to capitulate and accept that he did have an affair.
Parrot?
Yeah.
That is amazing.
It was repeating things.
Because people that have affairs can be very, very accomplished.
But she programmed the parrot to make it look like the parrot had picked up these things that had been said in the house, and the wife was like, why is the parrot saying these things? And eventually it forced him to say, okay, I have been having an affair in the house.
That is amazing. So right, what does January the 6th look like for you? Are you expecting, the people are coming in your direction?
This is a mad month.
Yeah.
January and February, when people are put together, it's a bit like COVID was mad for those 2 years, which is crazy for, our practice went from 16% divorce work to 60% family work over those 2 years. This is a mad time. We've already had inquiries coming in. We'll probably get between 3 and 5 instructions a week at the moment until mid-February, end of Feb. And it sets the divorce lawyers up for the whole year.
I've had a communication from someone that wants to remain anonymous, and she says she's been married for a very long time, but didn't work, has no pension, no financial independence, and that's what's keeping her with her husband.
Well, what's the husband got, is what I would say.
Well, that's it, yeah. So
I mean, if he's got a fabulous pension, if he's got income, well, remember the starting point is 50-50 split, and then we look at the needs of the parties. So if one person's needs are greater, then they get more of a split, more of the share, and those needs can often be that they have the children, health, housing, things like pension. If she doesn't have a pension and he's got £1 million pension pot, well, she's going to have a pension sharing order. Spousal maintenance, so we may get that for 3 years, 5 years. In some cases, we've had spousal maintenance for life for women that we've represented.
So it's not a case of just writing off, because this is a common thing, isn't it? Women who maybe have given up their careers and then feel that they, and also the children. People are worried about the children, but it's a very common thing actually to what they call bird nest, where you keep the family home and you come in and out.
It's a very new concept. The Canadian Prime Minister did that. So rather than the children going between mum and dad's house, the children stay in one house and mum and dad come and go. So there has to be like 3 properties or 2 where mum and dad swap over. I suppose
your advice would be, if you're thinking about it, then get some legal advice to start off with as the first point.
Super early legal advice. Even if you haven't flipped the switch yet and you're totally convinced, go and get advice, because information is power. There is only so much you are going to learn from the internet or ChatGPT or one of the AI bots these days. Go and speak to a lawyer, because we can also talk about strategy and how to maximise what you get out of it.
Well, it's always a pleasure to see you. Thank you, Paul, for coming in. Paul Britton, leading divorce lawyer, founder of the law firm Britton & Time, based in Brighton and Mayfair. We'll talk more about divorce in just a moment after Genesis.